match. Can't have you here and not talk about AJ, unfortunately, Eddie. So is that going back to looking at AJ potentially as that next fight in there?
Possibly, yeah. I mean, look, I think it's a great fight. I mean, firstly, Joe Parker is on an incredible run.
Absolutely.
I mean, he's beaten Wilder when no one really wanted to fight him. He's beaten Zhang when he was like the bogeyman, and he's just beaten Bakoli, although, you know, on short notice. I mean, that was a dangerous fight to take. So
Absolutely.
I love Joe. I think he deserves an opportunity. Joe against Dubois, Joe against Usyk, Joe against AJ. They're all great fights. I think for AJ, you know, this is the closing chapter, and we've got to get it right. I mean, look, he's not going to be able to punch now for another 6 weeks or so. So Dubois and Fury, of course, are probably the bigger challenges for him at this moment in his career. But Parker fight's a dangerous fight for anybody. And
it'd be a different fight to the Cardiff fight.
Yeah, I mean, look, we beat him once, but that was a unification. That was a long time ago, and Joe's on great form, and AJ's coming off a defeat. So we're not in a tearing rush, but of course he's going to fight again this year. We got to get the decision right, because this is the last throw of the dice, really. And whatever way it comes for Parker, he deserves it all, because he's been in there and beaten everyone in front of him. Just found it.
And those are the words of Eddie Hearn as he reveals, by speaking on Joseph Parker, that his fighter Anthony Joshua, it's the last draw, it's the last roll of the dice, the last throw of the dice, the last attempt to make it right for his career. Meaning, if he loses again, it's over. And let me counterpunch. I think that's pretty much a standard. You know, I think people know, like, if AJ loses the way he lost in Wembley, that's it. He will never be considered, and he shouldn't be considered, a top threat right now any longer. Regardless of what happened in the past, that's in the past, and leave it in the past, because, you know, that's boxing. Boxing is exactly this way. It's, you know, it's unforgiving. It's, you know, it's easily forgettable. You know, it's a legendary sport where, you know, as long as you were able to do certain things that people remember, you will always be remembered in a certain light. But then, you know, don't start getting beat too much, Roy Jones Jr. People will then start looking at you differently, regardless of what you did back in the day. And that was the sad thing about guys, legends, you know, like Roy Jones, you know, as opposed to like Floyd, you know, where, you know, a lot of people, Floyd was the best because he never lost, that type of thing. Versus, you know, Roy fought everyone and lost to quite a few people at the end of his war, but he beat a lot of people in that same time, but his wins didn't really get the credit and gratification and looked at as his losses were. So that's the problem with those type of things. People start looking at you a lot differently. So, but anyhow, I think that Eddie, you know, they're taking their time with Joshua. I don't know how hurt Anthony is, because, see, if he can't throw a punch for 6 weeks or so, it's pretty serious. You can't tell me that it's not. Like, oh, nothing major, but it's something going on with him that he can't throw a punch in 6 weeks. That means something he must have jacked up pretty good for him not to be able to throw a punch. You know what I'm saying? Like, no, I don't believe that. Or it's a lie. You know, it's the only way you're looking at it. I mean, it's either, if it's not as bad as you say it is, that means you're over-exaggerating what happened to him, you know, so you guys will take time to see what really happens with the WBO and all this other stuff, so you'll know when to jump in without pressure. And how do you stop the pressure off of a promoter or a fighter? You claim injury. You claim that something's wrong, therefore we can't fight anyway. We got to heal, so don't ask us any questions that we don't want to answer. And how do you stop yourself from doing that? Or how do we stop you from doing that? Oh, my fighter's injured. Next. You know what I mean? So the reporters will be more worried about what's going on with them, and that's no problem. They can make up some shit pretty quick. You know what I mean? It's Eddie Hearn here. It's a promoter with a nice, sweet tongue, isn't it? You know, pause. Yeah, but he knows the gift of gab. So, in other words, but anyway, yeah, Eddie saying that is just letting people know that it's Anthony's last, throwdown and last opportunity, and he's more blatant about it these days than he did back in the day, so that should tell you a lot. So you guys tell me what you think of Eddie Hearn and his statements towards his fighter, Anthony Joshua. Of course, please subscribe. And you guys been Counterpunch. Peace.